Testing. Good morning, everyone. We'll start up in a few minutes. So several things have been given to you. We're going to be reading a prayer from the White Book, the very first prayer. And if you can, try not to lay it flat on the floor. There's plenty of seats here. I don't bite too much, so if you would rather come a little closer, that's fine. I understand if you wish to sit further back. And secondly, you will have received a laminated sheet that says dedication of merit. We will do this at the end of the day, at the end of the class. This is an hour class. And we'll just take a few more minutes and relax as people are coming in. So good morning, everyone. My name is Cathy Lamo Jackson. I'm one of the meditation instructors and mentors here at Columbus KTC. Just for recording's sake, today is Sunday, October 2nd, around 11:30 a.m. for the 11:30 class. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Beautiful day. You could be outside hiking or staying at home watching movies or streaming, but instead you gave up some of your time to come here. I'm very grateful. I have been coming to the center for over 35 years, and my heart always goes out to newer people because I remember when my husband and I first went to our monastery in upstate New York, we were the only people that were there that weekend because there had been a storm. And I remember looking at all these things they kept putting in front of me, and I had no idea what I was reading. I'm pretty good at pronouncing things, even though I couldn't say that word. But I had no idea, so it's always been sort of an important thing for me to make sure everyone knows what we are showing you, what we are sharing with you in terms of opening and closing prayers. That sounds very basic. And if you're an advanced practitioner and this is too boring, I'm never offended if you get up and leave. But I think it's important to know what an amazing lineage we have. You know, we come from the living lineage of Shakyamuni Buddha, who was born 2,600 years ago. And over the years, the lineage has grown from all those that studied with him. And now at this center, our teachers mostly came from Tibet and Nepal and Bhutan and the Himalayan regions, and then later, of course, India, wonderful India, who took in so many people when the Tibetans had to escape. And now our teachers have been spread all over the world, as we have. So today we're going to study a very basic but profound prayer, which is the first prayer that you see when you open the white booklet. Before we begin, normally we begin with this prayer, but it's always nice to check your motivation. No matter how pure or ordinary we are, we all have a heart. And I think our hearts have all been very much affected by the suffering in Florida at this time. I was born in Miami, Florida, and vacationed a great deal in Sanibel. I cannot get over how many people's lives have been changed forever. So all the goodness in your lives, from your past lives, your present, your future, and all the goodness and grace throughout the universe, may we send it to them today. Also, those in the Ukraine and the rest of the world that is suffering, in hospitals, at home, in hospice. Just so many people are anxious these days. So we're trying to spend this time today to offer everything good that comes our way and just give it up. And they say the supreme way to do this is to first offer it to the Buddhas, and then they will distribute it wherever it's needed. So let's first chant this prayer together. I'm going to do it many times. And let's just look at it for a moment. This is an amazing prayer that touches on, it's a list actually of 4 sets of very special beings, groups of beings, not B-E-A-N as a people, and very special blessed people that have accomplished a great deal. And at the very beginning, it starts out with a Buddha. So I thought it's hard to do this prayer, maybe at first because it's kind of a list of names, but let's first read it in English. First, we'll read the title, the verses of the 8 auspicious ones. By the way, the nickname of this is Tashi Prayer. Tashi means auspicious. So you can join me however you wish. Om, homage to the Buddha, Dharma, and noble Sangha, all that dwell in the auspicious realms of the 10 directions, where all appearance and existence is completely pure. Their nature is spontaneously present. May all be auspicious for us. So that's the first group. The Buddha, the Dharma is his teachings, and the noble Sangha is the enlightened and ordinary community, which we are part of. Next, now we're going to be listing names, and these are Buddhas of the past. Drunme Gyalpo, Salchen Dundrup Gong, Jumpe Gyempal, Gedra Paul Dampa, Kunla Gompa Yacher Drapa Chen, Lumpo Tarapasa Drakpa. I'm sorry, I can say this only because this is mostly the words of the prayer. And sometimes when you read this, it's actually translated out, but I thought it'd be nice for you just to be introduced to these people or these beings. Semchen Tamche La, Gondrak Paypal, Yitzin Zeba, Sarag Drapal. And then the next page it says, homage to the 8 Sugatas. That's who we just listed. Sugatas are a name for the Buddhas of the past, those that have gone beyond. And it says, just hearing your names increases auspiciousness and success. So that's a second group we just read. The next group are the Bodhisattvas. If there's not enough white books, Winnie, go to page 34 in the red book. Anyone else not have a book? Do you see it? Great, thank you. So let's begin with the Bodhisattvas. These are male beings that are on the highest of the levels before they become full Buddhas, and their activity is to help all living beings in different forms. Youthful Manjushri, glorious Vajrapani, powerful Avalokiteshvara, we also know him as Chenrezig, protector Maitreya, Krishnigarbha, Nivarana Vishkambhim, Akashgarbha, and Samantrabhadra. Homage to the 8 Bodhisattvas, supreme in granting auspiciousness and success. The next group, and then continuing with this one, They also were all holding different implements, which I'll talk about later. They're gracefully holding your emblems. Upala flower, that's a blue lotus-like flower, a vajra, a white lotus, naga tree, jewel, moon, sword, and sun. Making offerings to the Buddhas of all directions and times are the creators of delight, holding the 8 most precious emblems. And these are the female Bodhisattvas, the most precious umbrella, they're holding these objects. The most precious umbrella, the auspicious golden fish, the wish-fulfilling vase of goodness, the exquisite Kamala flower, the conch of fame and glory, the glorious knot of prosperity, the eternal banner of victory, the all-powerful wheel, and perfume. Just thinking of your essential qualities makes success grow more and more. I'm sorry, I blipped over that, didn't I? Homage to the 8 auspicious goddesses: beauty, garland, song, dance, flowers, incense, light, and perfume. Just thinking of your essential qualities makes success grow more and more. Next, the last group are called the protectors. Brahma, Shambhu, Narayana, Shashrajna, and then, so those are part of the Hindu pantheon. It's actually Brahma. I'm sorry, I have it written on here, but we'll go through them in a minute. Next, the second group. So there's 8 in each group, so that was 4. The second part are kings of the past. Dhritarashtra, Virudaka, Virupsha, Lord of Nagas, Vaishravana. Each one is holding the divine emblem: wheel, trident, spear, vajra, veena, sword, stupa, and banner of victory. Homage to the 8 guardians of the world who make auspiciousness and prosperity grow in the 3 realms, with all obstacles and harmful influences pacified. May the work we are now about to begin meet with ever-growing fulfillment and success, and bring good fortune, prosperity, and happiness and peace. So we just read a whole list of really ancient beings. Why bother? What is the purpose of this prayer? The purpose of this prayer is to receive a great deal of blessings, almost like our pep squad, you might say, our spiritual squad that is there always supporting us. And so I thought before I go into the actual explanation, now we're going to actually chant it with a tune, how we normally do this. And just to let you know, most of us have been trained to do this several times a day. And I have great links I can give you, so you can just download it on your phone. And I'm going to read what Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche said about this prayer. But when is this prayer used? Before you begin anything, when you wake, when you go to sleep at night, when you're in danger, when you see a circumstance maybe you can't change, but you want to pray for. Because basically, it's not all on you. There's these special beings that have said, we have committed to help everyone. And so the whole point of this prayer is to tap in on their generosity. So let's just first do this prayer normally. When we do prayers, we hold our hands, in Anjali, or prayer mudra, but we don't do it flat. We hold it as if there's a little gem in our heart. Chenrezig Tanka here, you notice he's holding a blue gem, so we hold it near our heart. Did it just fall off? It sure did. Thank you. I think it's the mask. Better? Thank you. So we usually hold our hands in prayer, but how do you do that and hold a book? You just hold one hand up. So you can join me. I'm just going to go through this. And as I said, most of us know this prayer by heart, and it's a wonderful prayer to know, so I'll make sure that you know the links you could get online to just have it on your phone. And if you say it 2 or 3 times a day, you start to know it by heart. Om Nansi Nandaranshin Landrupe Tashi Chochu Shina Shupaye Sanje Chudangenden Pape Tsok Kun La Cha Sada Cha Trashi Shok Dun Mek Yao Bo Sa De Dun Du Gom Jam Pegen Ba Ge Dra Ba Dam Ba Kun La Gom Bo Gya Che Dra Pa Chen Lu Po Ta Pa Sa Dra Pa Da Ni Sam Chen Tan Che La Gom Dra Pe Pa Yi Tsin Se Pa Sa Ra Dra Pa Te Sen San Tu Pe Tra Shi Pa Pa Wa Te Wa She Pa Ge La Cha Tsa Lo Jam Pa Shu Nu Pa De Tor Je Tsin Chen Re Se Guang Gong Bo Jam Pe Pa Sa Yi Ni Bo Dre Pa Nam Ba Sa Nam Ki Ni Po Pa Cho Kun Tu Son U Pa Tor Je Pe Gar Lun Chi Dan Nur Buddha Wa Ra Dri Ni Ma Yi Cha Tsen Le Nam Tra Shi Pao Gi Chok Chan Chu Tsen Ba Ge La Cha Tsa Lo Rin Chen Do Cho Tra Shi Se Gi Nga Tu Jun Bun Sa Yi Yong Ka Ma La Nendra Tu Dam Bun So Pao Be Yu Mi Nu Gya Tsen Wan Gyor Ko Lo Je Rin Chen Ta Cho Ki Ki Cha Tsen Chen Cho Tu Gya Wa Cho Ching Ge Ge Ma Yek So Ngo Wo Drin Be Pao Pao Wei Tra Shi La Mo Ge La Cha Tsa Lo Sam Pa Chen Bo De Jun Sek Me Bu Mi Don Den Dan Yao Po Yo Gor Sun Pa Ke Po Dan Lu Quan Mik Mi Sam Na Tu Se De La Tse Kor Lo Jan Dri Shu La Da Tu Du Tor Je Chen Pi Rom Re Ji Chu Ten Gya Tsin Tsin Sa Su Ne Su Ge Le Tra Shi Pa Je Ten Kyung Wa Ge La Cha Tsa Lo Da Cha Den Dire Ja Wa Song Ba La Ge Dan Ne Wa Tse Wa Kun Shi Ne De De Ba Ba San Dun Yi Shin Zhu Tra Shi De Le Pon Sun So Pa Shu. Thank you. Now I'm going to read for a moment Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche's teachings on this, which were very brief. I should give you a really fast facts. First of all, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche was one of the founding teachers of our center. He died 3 years ago this coming Thursday. And I have not been able to figure out what to teach for the class. And then I realized I started reading some of his teachings from this pocket of things. So he used to teach every summer at our monastery for 10 days. We called it the 10-day teaching. And we met with him twice a day. He taught. The afternoons were, no one missed the afternoon because it was all questions and answer. And he let us ask anything we wanted. In the mornings, after breakfast, we either did our karma yoga, which would be to help, wash dishes or whatever, or we would go and do mudra or other practices with other practitioners. So it was and in the afternoon, we would do Mahakala practice, a protector practice, And in the evening, all together, we would do Chenrezig. And it was just splendid to meet people. There were usually 100 to 150 people. And it was a very special time. It started in the late 80s, in 1989. And in 1991, during one of the questions and answers, this is what someone said. They said, Rinpoche, this morning you gave us a reading transmission for the Tashi Prayer. Another time when you visited us at our center, you told us to recite it frequently. And could you say something about the prayer? And Rinpoche said we would not have enough time to go through the details of each line of the prayer, which is normally how it's done. And it would be very difficult. Oh, by the way, before I say anything more, Lama Cathy has transcribed this, and it's on her website, lamacathy.net. Look up Tashi Prayer. So basically, I'm just reading what the transcript, but she is, was an editor of a newspaper, so she made a beautiful one-page sheet. So you don't have to remember any of this. So he said, we'll not have enough time to go paragraph by paragraph. But I will now speak briefly on this text. Shakyamuni Buddha taught what is known as the Sutra of Auspicious Words. It's also called the Sutra of Auspiciousness. This prayer consists of the names of 8 different Buddhas, followed by the names of 8 Bodhisattvas, and then the names of 8 female Bodhisattvas and the 8 Dharma protectors. They're all outlined in this prayer. The teachings of Lord Buddha tell us to recite these 32 names of enlightened beings. By calling upon the names of those 32, we can generally bypass or get rid of all obstacles in this lifetime, whatever they are. Even if, in a normal sense, your life is jeopardized, you experience difficulty, lack of success, or illness, whatever negativities you face are purified, and you are able to pass through that kind of problem and become successful in anything you wish. That is the temporary benefit. Any obstacles that might prevent realization can be dispelled by this prayer. So again, any obstacles that get in the way of you becoming an enlightened Buddha are in this prayer. They will be dispelled. Therefore, it is an extraordinarily strongly recommended by the Buddha for practitioners to recite this prayer at the beginning of practice. Sometimes you may face dangerous situations, such as the threat of death by various elements or by animals, or any sort of threat to your life. If such a circumstance arises, if you instantly recite this prayer, you will definitely be able to remove that obstacle. Even if you have bad dreams that bother you at night, if you wake up and recite this prayer, the bad dream will instantaneously disappear. If you read this prayer once or twice every day without missing a single day, you'll increase all positive effects and accomplish any goal. In addition, when you die, if you have recited this prayer on a regular basis, you can eliminate the illusory state of the bardo and attain enlightenment in that state. That's when we leave our body and move on as we're dying. This actual sutra, which is much longer than this prayer, was condensed in its present form by Guru Mipam Rinpoche. He did this in the late 1800s. Since he composed this prayer, Lama Mipam himself, along with his disciples, along with Jama Kongtrul the Great, this is the first Jama Rinpoche, his followers, have all recited this prayer frequently throughout their lives. The modern teachers, now remember this is written in the 80s, the modern teachers who have visited the West, such as Venerable Kala Rinpoche and Dejin Rinpoche, and all the present eminences, that would be Gyaltsen Rinpoche, His Eminence Sita Rinpoche, and Jama Rinpoche, wherever they have traveled, have always recited this prayer at the beginning of the trip. Because of this strong tradition, I would like to request all of our students to do this prayer as a part of their daily practice. I've been wanting to adopt this prayer in our students' practice for some time, but for different reasons, we cannot make it available until now. Now I'm introducing this prayer, which I personally feel is very auspicious to the general community for the first time. He goes on, one of the special reasons I want all of you to do this prayer is that I and other teachers are constantly receiving requests and messages from our students about losing present jobs, not being able to decide about a career, various obstacles in their life. When I'm asked to help people in these situations, I immediately recite this prayer for that disciple, for his or her achievement of a good life. It would be wise for students to do the same prayer whenever you face problems relating to a livelihood, such as finding a job. So that was the only teaching I really ever received on this prayer. And years later, Bardo Tugul Rinpoche has a booklet on this that also goes through every part of the prayer, just also give you a reference. But there are other places we can also find references. Oh good, I have a half hour, so I can keep going, hold on. So, and then there was another question and answer the next year, which was I think it was the next year, yeah. So in the old days, we didn't have the internet. This is what our teachings look like. So Rinpoche spoke in Tibetan and he had a translator. And I believe the reason why there was an obstacle to getting this prayer, not many people had translated it before. So when the prayer came out, some of you know Dwayne Harris, that was part of the center. He went wild. We all learned how to use Tibetan fonts on computers. And then we would make them really tiny prayers and we would hang them in our cars. And anyway, I always thank Dwayne for that. It was really sweet. So let me get the right book. Here, there we go. So this is the other question I love. This person said, last year you gave us something called the Tashi Prayer and asked us to make it part of our daily practice. Unfortunately, I kind of forgot about it. It was not until recently someone brought this to my attention, so I began doing the Tashi Prayer on a regular basis, every day. To make a long story short, my life went, I'm sorry, there's a little cursing in this. I'll reframe. My life went to Hades in a handbasket really quick. I've asked some people, that means their life really went down, really, everything went wrong really fast. And I asked other people who did this prayer if they had that problem, and several of them said yes. I'm wondering, why does this phenomena happen? And Rinpoche said, that sounds normal. Usually when we feel we are starting to experience a string of disasters, it is actually a cleaning process of some kind, purification. For example, if you have some very dirty clothes and you just let them sit somewhere, they seem somewhat dirty, but not quite as dirty as they really are. Once you start to wash them, more and more dirt starts to come out, and it seems like endless accounts of dirt. But eventually, you do get to the end of the dirt, and the clothes are clean. In the same way, people often say that the practice of Dharma, of Buddhist practices, and this includes meditation, this happens to a lot of people learning meditation, seems to be extremely troublesome, bringing up more problems than it solves, when in fact, it is solving problems by their rising up. Also, if you have a big fire, you're going to get a lot of smoke. When you find that you are doing this practice, or any practice, and it seems to be bringing up obstacles, you must become even stronger in it. It is a sign that something is happening, and this is very good. And then he does a slightly more modern, he did another comment about the benefits again. The main thing, when you do this practice, do not just chant it with your mouth. Do not chant this practice just by saying the words. Think about what you were saying. As you were saying it, actually pray to the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, the offering goddesses, the guardians of the world. If you really supplicate them from the depths of your heart, something will happen. You can make a distinction between correct and incorrect uses of it. For example, if you chant this with the intention of destroying your enemies, I guarantee you it will not work. If you chant this with the intention of acquiring some benefit for yourself, it is hard for it to work. If you chant this with specific intention of creating a situation that will benefit many people, then it works, definitely. It is quite famous, for this has always been used by practitioners. Again, he goes through different people. In our own time, His Holiness the Karmapas, Kala Rinpoche, Dudjom Rinpoche, who's the most famous Nyingma leader, all chanted this all the time and relied on it. And according to their statements about it, it seems it has great benefit. So that was Rinpoche's teachings on this practice. So I thought for a moment I would just talk again about, so this is the first few lines. If you look at the prayer, it says, Om homage to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, all that dwell in auspiciousness. So the first two lines are for the Buddha, for current day, the Buddha of our time, his teachings, and the community. Then the next, let's see, 3. The next 8 lines have to do with the Bodhisattvas. So I thought I would talk about some of these and give you the actual translation of the names. So again, this is called the verses of the 8 noble auspicious ones, or the Tashi Prayer, founded by Mipam Rinpoche, who lived in the 1840 to 1912, famous Nyingma teacher. But again, the root of this is from Shakyamuni Buddha. This is from a sutra. So sutras are they actually weren't recorded at the very moment it was done. They were recorded another time. But the sutras are when people met with the Buddha and asked questions. That was a question and answer forum. And someone asked about some of the auspicious Buddhas of the past, and that is how this came to be. So let's talk about the 8 Sugatas. And that started with Drunme Gyalpo, Salton Dundrup Gom. So just to let you know, the translation of their names are King of Lamps, the first one. The second one is Salden Dundrup Gompa. His name is Steadfast and Powerful One, whose vision fulfills all aims. The next is Glorious Ornament of Love. So these are all Buddhas of the past. The one who's concerned for all beings, bring him universal renown. Glorious one renowned as Mount Meru, in eminence and might. Glorious one renowned as caring for all sentient beings. Glorious one renowned as the most powerful in helping all living beings. So those are the Buddhas of ancient times. So the Buddha we have today is our Buddha, because he's still in our history, Shakyamuni Buddha. And the future Buddha will be Maitreya Buddha. So sometimes people think we only have one Buddha. We have many Buddhas. And if any of you do a confession practice, you know of the 35 Buddhas. So let's move on to the Bodhisattvas. So these are ones considered the close sons of the Buddha, who all possess the same qualities and powers, but they have a different display. Unfortunately, I didn't do a PowerPoint. I probably should have. But the first is Manjushri. If any of you are familiar with the Heart Sutra, he is holding an upala flower in which the Heart Sutra, which is the Prajnaparamita, is actually in the flower itself. He's one of the 8 great Bodhisattvas who are closest disciples to the Buddha. In this form, he sometimes appears whitish green in color, holding a flower almost like a lily to symbolize renunciation. And he is the embodiment of knowledge and wisdom of all the Buddhas. Traditionally depicted also holding a sword in his right hand to cut through ignorance. Many people at this center do Manjushri practice, especially in order to gain better knowledge if they're studying language, Tibetan language, or if they are in college, or in high school, they do this practice The second one is Vajrapani, and he holds a Vajra. I don't have a Vajra with me, but is there a bell and Vajra right around here? That's all right. We don't have any pictures. See, at my house, I have a picture of Chenrezig with Vajrapani and who else? Oh, I can't remember. I'm having a blank. And Manjushri. So some pictures have that and some don't. Next time I'll have pictures. The next one is Chenrezig, or Avalokiteshvara. He's so famous for his compassion that we actually do his practice here. The next is Kashini Garba, holding a jewel. He's revered more in China and Japan as having vowed not to attain Buddhahood until he empties all the hell realms. The next one is Nivarana Vishkambim. Let me say it again. Nivarana Vishkambim, or Dukpa Namsel, purifies wrongdoings and obscurations. And he's holding a wheel of jewels. And the next, let me see it in Tibetan, Namkhe Ningpo, one of the 8 great Bodhisattvas, and his name means the nucleus of space. He's often depicted, he's very similar to Manjushri, and cutting through destructive emotions. And the last is Samantabhadra, who is very famous for generating prayers of aspiration. He's also known as Kuntu Zampo in Tibetan. And he is famous for his vastness of offerings. So, and then we have the goddesses. They have names in Tibetan, but in the text they're referred to in a different way. They're referred to the goddess of beauty, garlands, song, dance, flowers, incense, light, and perfume, because these are all the things that they're offering. And they're all partners with the 8 Bodhisattvas. So we have the male and the female. And the last group, because of time, I can't go through everything. The last group is the group that I particularly was unfamiliar with, I would say, with the 8 guardians of the world. I thought I knew the protectors, but these are the ancient protectors, not the ones that we use, I would say, in more modern Tibetan Buddhism, where we use Mahakala, etc. These were, the first 4 have to do with historical times during the time of the Buddha, after he attained enlightenment. It is said all the holy ones had begged the Buddha many times to teach, and he would not teach. So some stories say Brahma came to him, some stories say they appeared as Brahma, but Brahma is one of the gods of Hinduism. So the next are the 4 Hindu gods, Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, and Indra. And the story I learned was Brahma and Indra came and asked the Buddha to teach. And Brahma he first appeared after the Buddha attained enlightenment and offered a 1,000-spoked golden wheel, representing him turning the wheel of Buddhism. So those are the principal Hindu ones. And then, because Hinduism was just beginning at this time, it wasn't, but these were already gods that had already existed in other realms. Then we had the 4 great kings of the ancient times, and they had been connected with the past Buddha, and their aspiration was to be reborn with the next Buddha, which is Shakyamuni, in order to help him, and they reside in Mount Meru. So I know this sounds really rather cosmic-y, but it is sort of. It's a type of concepts that were not around all the time. But the bottom line is these verses of auspiciousness invoke the power of goodness, compassion, and love, and concern by all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the past, so that no harm or obstacles will come our way, or for to whoever those that we're praying for. Are there any questions before we do the prayer a few more times? You can ask me anything if you have any questions. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm not sure if I can answer it, but I'm good at saying no.
I can reach this mic, so that's fair. I just want to ask, in terms of order, where do you recommend in your daily practice putting the Tashi prayer in? After refuge, after guru yoga? I guess if you don't know
So could
more.
you speak up just a little?
Sorry.
Perfect.
All right. Where do you recommend in your daily practice to add the Tashi prayer in? In what order?
So, I went really slow today when we did it. A lot of us that know it by heart can go kind of in a nice clip. It takes all of 2 to 3 minutes. It is usually done at the beginning of everything. And Nipan Rinpoche himself said, do this at the beginning when you wake, and do it as you go off to sleep at night. So that's why we usually memorize it, and you can just lay it in bed and saying it. Before you go, whenever you're with a teacher and we're going on a trip, even just to get in the car, they will do it there. But usually those are the main times. Or if you're having a lot of problems with, challenges with career, with family, with health, whatever it is, you could do it anytime. You don't just have to do it at those times. But that's a good question. That's usually when it's done. Thank you. Okay, well, why don't we do the prayer again? Yes, was there another question? No? Okay. And I know this is a hard prayer to pronounce maybe at the beginning, so make the aspiration, can I pronounce this a little easier? The mind is a powerful thing. And whenever you come up to a little blockage, just relax and go, oh, well, there's a fix for we have a lot of hacks. This is the biggest Buddhist hack I can think of. It's so amazing. All right, so again, let's do it 2 times. The second time, why don't we spend a moment, because most people who come to our center, like all of us, our lives can be challenging, and we're learning tools in order to get through these times and go beyond that. So why don't you spend a moment, before we begin, is there anything on your mind? I'm not asking you to share this. This is your own conversation with yourself. Is there something you wish to improve? An obstacle to be removed? A quality to be grown and increased and nurtured? Someone in your family really needs help. You want to be more patient and be more skillful to remove that obstacle between you. Let's begin. Om Nansi Nandaran Chi Lundupe Tashi Jojo Shina Shubayi Sanje Chudangen Pape Tsok Kun La Cha Sa Da Cha Tra Shi Shok Dun Me Kya Po Sa Den Dun Du Gom Jam Pi Gen Ba Ge Da Pa Dam Ba Kun La Gom Po Gya Che Tra Pa Chen Lung Pu Ta Pa Sa Da Pa Da Ni Sam Chen Tan She La Gom Tra Pe Pel Yi Zin Se Pa Sa Ra Tra Pel De San San Tu Pe Tra Shi Pao Pao Wa Dewa Shepa Ge La Cha Tsa Lo Jam Pa Shenu Pa Den Tor Je Zin Chen Rei Si Wa Gong Po Jam Pe Pel Sa Yi Nim Bo Drip Pa Nam Ba Sao Nam Ki Ni Bo Pa Cho Kun Tu Song O Pa Dor Je Pe Kar Lun Chi Dan No Pu Ta Ra Ra Di Ni Ma Yi Cha Tsen Le Nan Tra Shi Pa Gi Chok Jan Ju Tsam Ba Ge La Cha Tsa Lo Rin Chen Do Cho Tra Shi Se Gi Nga Tu Jam Bo So Yi Yong Ka Ma La Nendra Tu Dam Bun So Ta Ve U Mi Nu Kya Tsen Wan Yor Ko Lo De cho ki ki cha tsen chen cho tu gya wa chu chi ye ke ma yek so ngo wo din be bao bao we Tashi lam ho ge la cha sa lo Sampa Chenpo Dejun Sek Me Bu Mi Don Den Dan Yao Bo Yu Gor Sung Ba Ke Bo Dan Lu Quan Mik Mi Sam Na Tu Se De La Se Ko Lo Dan Dri Shu La Dan Tu Tu Dor Je Chen Bi Wang Ra Ji Ju Zhen Ya Zhen Zhen Sa Su Ni Su Ye Li Cha Shi Bao Ji Ten Yong Wa Ge La Cha Sa Lo Da Cha Den Ni Ja Wa Song Ba La Yek Da Ni Wa Tse Wa Kun Chi Ni Da Da Ba Ba San Du Ni Shi Du Tashi Je Le Fon Sun So Far So. Now I was thinking of that question, and often at home you might have a list of people you're praying for, but many teachers have told me the best thing is we tend to always pray for people we know, to always remember, to always expand our prayers to everyone. But it's good to think of that before you begin the prayer. And as Rinpoche said, it's not just using your mouth. So remind yourself, and as I said, if you wish, I think our center on our website, we have something called the Virtual Shrine Room, and there's a whole list of prayers there. I know the Tashi Prayer is there, and I believe LamaCathy.net's Tashi Prayer commentary is there. And I will make sure today that it's there, because it's a good place. But you could look this up anywhere. A very good link is, of course, now I can't remember it. I use all kinds of links when I'm researching, but I like a few different styles of the prayer. By the way, the traditional prayer usually has a colophon at the end that tells you about all the benefits. That's my only criticism. It probably was cut off to save space, but it's usually a really big paragraph, if you can find that. Let me just look here to see where I did a lot. Now, Tibetans also have another word for this prayer. So if you go and look up the word Tashi, T-A-S-H-I, prayer, the first thing that comes up is LamaCathy.net. And it's not the prayer, but it's, actually it might be the prayer. Let me see if the prayer's actually on there too. Oh, it's the prayer. I didn't know this. This is great. That's what's in the red books. So, so it's right there. It doesn't have the Tibetan, but I like to also see the Tibetan script because there's so many blessings with that language. You can also go to Lotsawa House. Lotsawa means translator. They have some of the finest. I'll stay behind if anybody wants to know, just to let you know. And then also, as I said, Bardo Tukul Rinpoche did a beautiful booklet on this, going through paragraph by paragraph, all the different things that I just lightly mentioned, but just to do a really quick recap. Remember that this begins, making our, remembering the Buddha, the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha, his teachings, and the community, enlightened and ordinary. Then next we went through the 8 different Bodhisattvas who are on a very high level. Bodhisattvas go through many different levels. They're right before becoming full Buddhas, and they stay there on purpose in order to benefit beings. And then we have the female counterparts who are making offerings to all of the Buddhas. And lastly are all the protectors of ancient times, those that vowed to protect the teachings of the Buddha and all the practitioners. So it's pretty astounding what an amazing support group we have here. I mean, and it's free, and you can stand in line. Well, you know, in the old days when you stood in line at banks, well, now when you're sitting in your car waiting for something, you can do it there. But it's an amazing prayer, and if you can't remember all of it, just start slowly doing it many times, and you'll get it. All right, so let's just do it one more time, because it's more auspicious than me just talking. Was that too fast for you the last time? Oh, and tunes. Don't worry, make up whatever tune you want. This is a tune we've always used at our monastery, but make up whatever tune or no tune. You can just say it. You can just read it in English at some point. But it's kind of hard to read. But there are sometimes they translate every word. See if Lama Cathy did that. I want to see her translation. Where are you, Lama Cathy? There it is. That's so nice. Let's see. Yeah, I think hers translates it. I loved all the different translations. This is a slightly different translation that's really worth looking at. Okay, let's do it again in Tibetan. Om Nansi Nanda Ranshi Lundrupe Tashi Joju Shina Shupai Sanje Chodan Yend Pape Sok Ganla Cha Tsa Da Cha Trashi Shok Rin Me Gyao Po Sa De Dun Dun Gom Jampi Gemba Gira Padam Ba Ganla Gombo Gya Che Draba Chen Lumpo Tarpa Sadra Padani San Chen Dan Che Lago Drape Pa Yitzin Se Pa Sara Drapa De San Santu Petra Shiva Bawa Te worship Gila Chatsalo Jamba Shunu Baden Dorjizin Genre Si Guan Gombo Jambe Bel Sayi Nimbo Driba Namba Sa Nam Ki Nimbo Pacho Kuntu San Upa Dorje Bekar Lun Shindan No Buddha Waraji Nimayi Tatsen Lek Nandra Shiva Gichok Janju Samba Gila Chatsalo Rinchen Du Jodrashi Seginya Du Jumbu Sa Yiyong Kamala Nenda Tu Dampun So Pelbeyo Minu Gyatsen Wan Yor Kolo De Rinchen Da Chokiki Chatsen Chen Chotu Gyawa Chuching Yegema Exog Lo Wodrim Bebel Belwe Tashi Lama Gila Chatsalo Sampa Chembo De Jun Sek Mebu Mitun Den Dan Yabo Yorgor Son Pake Podan Lukwan Mik Mizam Nan Tu Se De La Te Golodan Te Sula Dan Du Tu Dorje Chen Biwam Ril Te Chu Den Gazen Zin Sa Su Ne Su Ge Le Trashi Bel Jiten Gyamwa Ge La Chatsalo Da Cha Den De Jawa Sombala Ketane Wa Tse Wa Kunshine De Du Papa Sam De Yishin Juk Trashi De Le Ponson So Parjo. Now, before we leave, we always dedicate all the goodness and the merit of everyone here. And We're going to use this little sheet and use the front page called Dedication of Merit. So we dedicate the merit. So we don't just think, oh, I did such a great job sitting there today, looking all cool. And we dedicate this so we are experts at taking care of ourselves, experts at always supporting our egos. This is a way to kind of start developing a little generosity. Let go of that. Offer all the goodness you've ever experienced to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and then they in turn to all those that are in need. And you'll be surprised what a rich life you have. Sorry, it's a different tune. I'll start again. Sonandi tanche sepani donene pedra nambam jene kekana chivala jupai sipe sole joa joa shok. And in English, by all this merit, may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. Champa pavo chita kempadam kuntu sampo deyande jinde deda kungi jesu dalochim yewa dida tamche ratungo. English, the courageous Manjushri, who knows everything as it is, Samantabhadra, who also knows in the same way, and all the Bodhisattvas that I am to follow in their path and completely dedicate all this virtue. So we already talked about Manjushri, wisdom, and Samantabhadra, famous for making offerings. We already covered them today. That was great. So if you can, give this a try. And you don't have to, of course. You might be surprised. And this is not something where, say I have a diagnosis of something pretty serious. No, it's not going to remove that. That's my karma. This is going to remove those little obstacles that always pop up all the time that throw us off. So, but you never know. So again, I invite all of you, if you like, next Saturday I'll be doing a workshop on Medicine Buddha. If you can afford it, fine. If you can't, just come anyway. And it's also on Zoom. So, and we will have text here and also online. We'll have a slightly newer version, a more expanded version of the Medicine Buddha text. So I'll see you then. So thank you, everyone, and for all of your merit and all of your great patience of being here today. Thank you.